Welcome to the Obesity Medicine Podcast with your host, Dr. Matea Rentia, board certified in internal medicine and obesity medicine. Here, we talk about a path to metabolic health, and we have real conversations about chronic weight management and living a full life. Just a reminder, I am a physician, but I'm not your physician. So everything that's on this podcast is for informational purposes, but please go talk to your doctor about what's right for you. There is no medical advice being given on this podcast. Welcome everybody back to the podcast. Today is going to be a really historic day because we have the amazing Corinne Crabtree on, and anyone that's been following me for a long time, over 5 to 6 years, I have been in Corinne's world for a long time. So I want to say that she's really an expert in helping women overcome emotional eating. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and all her background with coaching and everything. But she has helped thousands of women to overcome this, to work through it, to be able to navigate it, because a lot of this is managed, not necessarily something that's completely gone, because it's really usually something that we've learned at an early age how to cope with life with some of these strategies. Corinne was on my first podcast when me and Carrie were together. And then I've had my podcast sort of more with the metabolic angle for several years now. And I have waited to ask Corinne because I was like, there just has to be the right time. I can't do this too soon. So I'm incredibly, I know, you were like, what? Yes, I've been waiting. So Corinne, can you introduce yourself? Just let everybody know who you are, because I think we might have a lot of listeners that might not have been introduced to you before.
Yeah. So like you said, I'm Corinne Crabtree. Basically, I had a weight problem from the time that I was 9 years old. And the way I always like to think about it is the only time I was ever thin in my life was when I came out of the womb. It was like, and for a little bit when I was a little kid, I was naturally thin and stuff, but I just grew up really poor. And by the time I hit 9, we were eating fast food on the regular. It was all my mother could afford, and it's all we had time for. We ate in the car, we ate on the go. And then a lot of times we ate buffets. We were really broke. So in the real lean times, she'd find a buffet. We would go and we'd hang out for a long time. And she would say, eat all you can, because I don't know when the next meal's coming. Because it could be a couple of days before she could scrap enough cash together for us to eat again.
Yeah.
So it's pretty rough. And unfortunately for me, my body stored everything. My brother was the size of a pencil his entire life. Me, I could just look at food and gain 5 pounds. So I struggled with my weight. I was really bullied throughout my entire middle school years. I got into high school. Things didn't really improve very much. Depression set in on top of all of it. By the time I hit my 20s, I was pretty much a disaster. I had married and already divorced by the age of 21. I was up and down the depression roller coaster. I weighed well over 250 pounds for most of it. And I was like one of those people who could lose weight like a boss, but gain it back like a boss real quick. So I could lose about 50, 75 pounds. I'd get, kind of excited, love it. And I would do something so extreme that I would just be craving, wanting to enjoy having the weight off, which meant I would just go back to eating like I was, and I would slowly just regain the weight. So after just basically 30 years of struggling, I had a child at this time. I finally met my husband, we've been together now for over 23 years. And I just hit a rock bottom. There was this one day my little boy was playing. He was in the floor. And my mother never had a chance to play with us. It was always, we were either babysitters, left alone, or she was coming home really tired, and all she wanted to do was go to bed. That is how I remember my childhood. And I always said that when I had a kid, I was not going to be like her. I was going to be basically June Cleaver, making meals and playing and doing all the things. And I was really fortunate because when I got married, I was able to leave my job. We decided I was going to stay at home. We had plans to have 4 of these kids.
Yeah.
Well, 1 year in, I'm depressed as shit. Can I cuss on your podcast?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I let that one slide before even asking if it's good. So, depressed as shit. And my son comes toddling up, and he's like a year old, and he wants to play. And I remember so vividly saying, Mommy's too tired to play. And this is at 10 o'clock in the morning, Matea. And so I immediately started crying. It was like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. You have turned into your mother. You are not cooking meals like you said you would. You're eating your face off every night. Well, honestly, all day. But nighttime was my worst. And you're too tired to even play with your kid. And it was a combination of I wasn't taking good care of myself, but at the root of it is I didn't know how to take care of myself. I'd
Right.
only ever knew pretty much coping with food, getting through the day, putting out fires, worrying, catastrophizing. I mean, that was just my life.
Yeah.
And so my husband came home, I bawled my eyes out, and I just said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I've got to figure this out. I can't keep going like I'm going. And then it took me about 18 months. I ended up losing 100 pounds, made small changes. I really worked at the root of my problem. I didn't do a diet. I refused to do one. So I just kind of combined knowing that I needed to treat myself better, and I had to learn how to do that because I never knew how to treat myself well. It felt so indulgent or like something other people knew how to do, but I didn't know how to do it. And then I also had to combine it with not starting a diet, but actually figuring out small little changes I could start making so that I could get progress. I knew my weakness was starting off too strong, doing too many things, going 180 in the opposite direction. And the second something wouldn't go right, I would just throw it all away. And so I lost the weight. And then once I did that, I decided I just wanted to help other people do it. And so I've kind of been on a mission since 2007 to just help as many women as I can figure this out for the last time. I like to tell people, I'm going to help you lose weight, but we're not just going to lose your physical weight because if you don't lose your emotional weight, you'll never keep it off. So that's kind of our magic sauce is we're really going after the real reasons underneath why we eat so much.
100%. Thank you for sharing your story because I know so many people that listen, they're going to be able to relate to this. I had my own moment of this when it was actually when I was pregnant with my son. This was, I don't know, 6 years ago at this point. And I just remember I had this moment after he was born where I was like, I will not be able to take care of him. It's too hard to hold him. Everything was hard. So this was beyond just the starting of having a new life to take care of. And I just remember that day being like, well, I will never count calories, but something needs to change. And then just that's when I found you after that and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's really this moment, but something that you said that I think is really beautiful that everybody needs to take in here is that you didn't know how to take care of yourself. And I think that this is something that I really stress to people. There's usually a skill gap in there. And instead of constantly shaming yourself and saying, oh my gosh, I keep doing the same things, you probably don't know how to do something different. You weren't taught it. You're maybe into high stress environment. There's something going on here and we can figure it out, but we have to stop blaming ourselves first. So I just think your story is incredibly powerful. And I'm wondering if I'm just going to dig right in here. I have a bunch of questions for you today. I want to pick your brain on everything. So I want to start with emotional eating. And I'm going to just set the table here that it's eating for any reason other than physical hunger. So this can be many different things. And if you want to define it, I would love that too. But I really think it can be a beast, right? And a lot of my listeners, they might be on a medication. So something like, okay, a GLP-1. So we knock down the appetite, but it doesn't get rid of all the other reasons that people are eating, whether they're used to that, whether they're coping with things, stuff like that. And so what I'm wondering is, what are your top strategies for really breaking that habit and sort of retraining your brain, especially when someone really realizes it's like, oh no, I didn't know that this was emotional eating. What do I do now? What strategies do you offer? Or what should people even think about first?
I think the thing I loved how you started with we have to kind of define emotional eating. It's amazing to me how many women don't really know what emotional eating is. Like so many of the women who come to me will swear to God they're not an emotional eater, but they'll like resonate with everything I say, except but I'm not really an emotional eater. I'm like, really? Let's talk about all the ways emotional eating can show up. And one of the things that people don't realize is that first, emotional eating in and of itself is not a bad thing.
Yep.
It is just a thing we do. And sometimes we have really good reasons to emotionally eat. So some of us are going to eat, like if it's my birthday, you better know, like I'm about to get down and we're going to get down to my favorite foods and I'm going to eat emotionally because I want to enjoy what I'm having. Like savoring and pleasure and joy are forms of emotional eating, which we want to celebrate, like holidays. There's so many customs. And when you think about all the different religions and stuff, I think about Easter coming up. And I remember every Easter Sunday, my grandmother putting on a freaking spread. And it was deviled eggs and it was ham and mashed potato, everything we all loved, it was there. But that was a big part of celebrating Easter for us. And so I never want someone to think that If you're eating outside of physical hunger, somehow that's bad. Not necessarily. We always have to look at things through the lens of why am I eating? And is this reason a rock solid reason that I'm proud of, that I would want to pass down to my children, that is a part of who I want to be? And I always think that that's a really good starting place, because sometimes food is really tasty and you don't get it very often. And it's okay if you want to eat past full.
Right.
But if every meal is, I just love it, it tastes so good, and it's like a freaking Cheeto you can get any day of the week, you have to ask yourself, is food in this moment tasting good a valid enough reason for me to keep eating, when I also know there's a version of me that wants to feel better, wants to lose weight, wants to XYZ, whatever that is. As women, we have to quit saying emotional eating is a bad thing. It's like emotional eating is something every human does and has done since the start of time. Customs and traditions have been with us since pretty much the caveman days. The next thing in terms of like strategy is really digging into, then if I'm not going to eat, like let's say I know I'm not hungry, I think this is an emotional thing. The next thing is, before you stop eating, you always need to know why you're eating. So I always like to tell people that most of us are eating for a host of reasons. We are comforting. A lot of my women do a lot of nighttime eating, and so many of them are leading a passionless life. So they feel like all they do every day is take care of everybody. They do good in their job, but they're not in the job of their dreams. They're in the golden handcuffs. They're taking care of their kids and stuff, but they never get time for themselves. They just don't have a lot of pleasure, joy, and passion in their life unless they're eating. And then that becomes the only time they get to experience that peace. And so if you don't understand why you're eating and all you do is take the food away, I don't have anything against diets, but except for one piece. When they're not addressing the emotional eating, all they're saying is, do this. This thing that you've been eating is representing joy, pleasure, and passion in your life. And then it could be grief, loneliness, sadness, all the things. But if you take the food away, then you're just sitting there going like, okay, now I'm just joyless, passionless, and purposeless with no hits of feeling good. And then we wonder why we cave. And so for me to talk to people about strategies, it's like, before you plug in taking away food, I always like to look at it this way. We have to plug in what the food was representing. Because if you start meeting the needs the food is trying to solve, then when you are taking the food out after that, you're just breaking a habit at that point. Breaking a habit is not that hard. You will want to still eat, that kind of stuff, but you won't feel compelled. There's a difference between your body knowing, oh my God, if we don't eat tonight or whatever it is, you're going to be sitting here and you're not going to feel fulfilled. You're going to be sitting here and you're going to be feeling guilty because you didn't get enough done today. Like whatever your reasons for eating are. And then when we fulfill that need and we change how we think about things, then all we have to do is sit there with our emotional needs very well taken care of. And now we have the strength. This is where willpower can come into play. We can just like when the habit wants to take over, now we're just breaking a habit. We're not sitting there miserable because we're unfulfilled.
Yeah. I really like how you started out with, first of all, evaluating, is this in your values? Do you want to be doing this? What's behind it? So it's almost like people need to take a beat before they even make an action plan. Because I hear what you're saying, and 100%, like these people that are like, here's the meal plan. I'm thinking, first of all, like you don't even like the taste of that food, the timing of the food, like just all of it. Okay. It's almost like you have to go about this a little bit of a slower way. And I 100% agree with you where it's like the rest of life needs to get built out. And this is really hard for people to hear. I went through this myself because I really felt that I got a lot from food. It was like a sport to kind of like sit down and decide what's sweet, what's salty, what are we going to get out here? You know, when that's not there anymore, you're like, oh, what do I do instead of that? And now it's like, okay, I color, I walk, but it's like you have to work on that slowly over time. And 100%, it is that like, well, this is the only hour that I get at night. And so is it actually who you want to be? I think that's really brilliant. So we get to decide what relationship do I want to have with food? When is it worth it? When is it not? But that it's happening consciously, right? That's what you're saying. It's not just like we don't realize that these things keep happening. So that is really great. And along those lines, because this is completely what you're talking about, you really always break through kind of like the diet BS and you make it very simple. But what I often find is that so many people, they come from these years of diet rules, right? And there's like the timing of the meals, the tracking of the macros, everything's really complicated. So how do you help people to kind of cut through that noise and actually embrace simplicity? Because no one believes me. I'm like indoctrinating them all day long. Let's take this one thing and that will be enough. And then in 2 weeks, let's iterate on it. And they're like, no, that won't be enough. And they're like fighting me. And then months into seeing me, they're like, okay, I believe you. I'm going to do it. So what would you say to that person?
Well, I always teach that the one skill, if I had to boil everything down to what is it that I really believe will solve weight loss, it is think before you eat.
Yeah.
That's it. Like it's always about think before you eat. If you can figure out how to do that. Now, there's a lot of nuances to it. It's like, we need to think about our needs. We need to think about different things, but it's the simplest of all the rules. And so once that's happening, the next thing I usually tell people is when they tell me it's not good enough, I always like to explain to me why that won't be good enough. Because it's literally one of the many things you're going to need to do. And most of the time when I ask them to explain why it's not good enough, their answer isn't this thing is not good enough. It's, well, it won't get me there fast enough.
Yes.
It's like, so that step still has to happen, right? To get there, correct? And I'm always like trying to like show them in explicit ways. It's like, but you're not saying we shouldn't do this. You're just saying you think you got to do 5,000 other things because you want to get there faster. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But the problem, and I usually make them tell me, how many times have you gone all in on lots of things and it's worked permanently? And of course, no one's coming to see me when that's ever happened. I still have the epic record of goose egg.
Yeah, they would not be at your door.
Right. No one's paying me to help them lose weight because the last one was so successful. So usually I just like to show them like your brain is only saying this isn't good enough because it wants to get there fast. But it's not going to get there if we don't get good at this thing, because we both agree this has to get done in order to lose weight. All I'm asking you to do is get good at this. And we don't know if this will take a day, a week, or a month. Let's just be surprised.
Yeah.
Because our brains are terrible. Our brains think everything is hard, but that's not a fact. We don't know literally until we do something. You may even have thought it was hard in the past, but if I give you new information, it's just like if I gave you right now an IKEA shelf to build with no directions, you would say that's going to be hard. But if I give you the directions next, then you're going to be like, well, that's going to be a little bit easier. And so a lot of times when people come to me and like when they come to you, we're giving them a new set of directions that somebody previously didn't give them.
Yeah.
So it may or may not be hard. And I also just find that women, when it comes to this whole not good enough thing, they don't even really know why things were hard to begin with.
Yeah.
Most of what actually feels hard is a collection of our own doubts and insecurities surrounding what we're doing. And it makes that thing feel harder than it actually is. When I tell people, the best way to lose weight, so first we're going to think before we eat. Second, put the fork down. Like literally, just put it down. That's not hard. What's hard is when you put the fork down and think, I'm not going to get enough and everybody else is still eating. This probably won't work. What if I'm hungry later? That's hard. But so I always like to show them the difference between we're going to try something. And the hard part is never what I show you to do. The hard part is everything your brain's going to throw at you, and we can work with your brain. The brain is, to me, easy to fix if you know how to fix it. Yeah. But again, we go back to like when Corinne was crying on her couch, no one taught me how to feel an emotion. I
Mm.
had only been taught we don't have time for that shit.
Yeah.
My mother always said, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. Or
Mm.
she would say, you always exaggerate. Like you blow things out of proportion. Now, I love my mother. She grew up with a mother who did the same thing to her. And it ain't like my mom was on some mission to mess me up. My mom was like 17 when she had me, and she did the best she could. And she
Oh,
was overworked and overstressed. But I heard those messages. So I don't look back on it and get mad at my mother. I look back on it so that I understand why today, sometimes, like I even tell myself, quit crying. You always make too much out of things when it's situations where it's like, no, I'm hurt. I
yeah.
just need to cry.
Yeah.
And that's okay. So we have to be taught all this stuff. And that's why I always say, like, your brain can be changed. We just, like, if you're over the age of 40, they didn't teach this crap in school, probably over the age of 30. But nowadays, we hear more about emotional stuff. We all didn't learn it, but it's not too late for us. We're just
Yeah.
going to learn it as grown ass women, whereas hopefully our children are learning these things now because the
Completely.
science is showing how important it is.
100%. No, this was not taught anywhere, right? And I like how you were stressing how our brain makes it harder than we think. And it's really interesting because I do get this sort of time argument from people all the time, right? Like they're always wanting to be there quicker. And I'm like, why? What gets to happen? What magic is going to happen at the end? Absolutely nothing. In fact, your same brain is with you, the same problems. Now you've really not worked on it. Now you're actually really freaked out about regain because you didn't even know that you were owning that you were the one in charge of these things that were happening on the way down. And so it's interesting. But this brings me to the next thing that the fear of regain. I mean, it is unreal in my world. People think that the goal is that they're going to achieve whatever percentage weight loss. We achieve that fat loss and they're terrified that it's going to come back. So I consider with maintenance, it's not really like one weight, it's a range, right? Depending on what's happening. And the fear is high. And I hear this all throughout my community. And so I wonder, what thoughts do you have for these people?
Well, I think the first thing is I think where you and I really do a lot of work on with people is if you're not changing how you think on the way down, you're literally just going to be a thinner version of you. So if you spend your entire weight loss journey worried you're not going to lose weight, when you lose weight, your brain is trained that, oh, the way to get to, and it gets really rewarded when you hit your goal. Like, good for you. You worried your ass off all the way. That worked. So now we should worry our ass off about keeping it off. You didn't really teach your brain how to trust the process, how to celebrate yourself, how to be like, you know what? I'm going to be on the hunt for progress all the time. Because if you don't groove those patterns, don't think that goal weight's going to make it. The other thing, and I think is one reason why so many people are afraid of being able to keep their weight off is when you have dieted in the past and all those emotional holes weren't filled, there's a phenomenon that happens. For a lot of people, they're miserable as shit, when it comes to their weight. And so when they're dieting, they finally feel a sense of control. They are getting scale rewards. For the first time in a long time, they're feeling good.
Yeah.
And they can ride that wave all the
Oh,
way to goal. And it's distracting them from the reasons they were eating to begin with. So it's like I'm now dieting and getting the hit and the control and stuff that food was giving me. Now I'm getting it with the diet. Well, here's the problem. Let's say that you're able to lose weight and you are a chronic worrier about what other people think of you. But while you're losing weight, you're not really thinking so much. Like the diet is busying you. It's just like, well, when I lose all the weight, they're going to think different. They're going to think different. They're going to think different. And
yes.
so you're kind of ignoring it, right?
Right,
Well, then
right.
you hit like your goal. Let's say you hit one, like mine was always 150. I hit 150. And if I always worried what people thought, the second I hit 150 and I don't have the diet to keep me busy, then all of a sudden it's like, I wonder if anybody notices. I wonder if people think I'm going to regain my weight. Oh my God, did you see how Susan looked at me? I think she was checking out my ass. Maybe it's not thin enough. All of that just comes right back. And then that reason we were eating is loud and clear, and we don't have the diet to lean on. I always tell my people, think of your brain as like the ultimate archive. It's like there is a little old lady living in there, and every experience, every thought, everything that you take in, she's like, let me store that in this file folder. And it just becomes enormous and gigantic. When you're losing weight, if you are able to not overeat, not emotionally eat, that file folder didn't get erased. It just got tucked in the back
Yeah.
and it's not needed right now. Then the second your worries and stuff come and you don't have the distraction of losing weight and you don't have all of that going on, she's like, let me go to the archives. So you're worried about what people think. This file folder says go get Cheetos.
Yeah.
It just sends it right back. So it's like for all of you, you've got to understand your brain's never going to forget emotional eating. It will be there and it will always come back. So our goal isn't to eradicate emotional eating. I always tell people, you're never going to not be an emotional eater.
Yeah.
All of us are. But we can be really good and learn how to know when something's going on and we notice a pattern coming back. If you really have learned how to talk differently to yourself, you really have learned how to start meeting your needs, you will notice when a need's going unmet and it's getting fulfilled by food again. And instead of beating yourself up, if you understand that that's just a normal human reaction, then during some of the tougher times in life, when our brain wants to go back to what it knows can soothe and work in the moment, you can say, like, okay, this is just my pattern. The file folder has been brought back to the front. I just need to figure out what's going on. Let me go back to what worked, fix the root cause. The desire will go down. And the nice thing is once you have broken a nighttime eating habit, the habit doesn't come back with a vengeance as usual. It's a
Yeah.
lot easier to break it because you've now built a habit around being able to break habits.
Yes. Okay, what you bring up completely, where it's like people think somehow that like weight is suddenly going to be back on. That's not how it goes. It's a slow process. Little itsy bitsies are coming in here and there. And like you said, if you learned on the way down, okay, this is a flag for that. I would say it's your cue. The nighttime eating coming in for me, it's always, Matea, are you overworking? It's loud and clear.
Yes.
And it's like, yes, you've started to schedule patients till 6:30 at night. What are you doing? And so to me, it's very clear. I always tell people you can always figure this out. So you have trust on the way down because you're always switching things and experimenting, right? It's not happening on accident when you're having results. I'm a big fan of this thing of like the list of 100. Like there's usually 100 things that you've changed and implemented to get good results. Like it's not just falling out of the sky. It's not a Chicken Little situation. And
Right.
so what you're talking about, where it's like you have faith that I will see these things come back. I will know how to get to the root cause of them, and they're not going to jump me from the back. That's not going to happen. When you were talking, I was thinking about this, that I think what you were talking about when people are like getting the dopamine hits from the weight loss and then they no longer have it at maintenance. I find that a lot of people make weight loss their identity. And I find it to be very sad because I think, ooh, what are you going to do when this isn't the main spotlight? And so I don't know, are there ideas that you have for people for how even before they've lost all the weight, they can stop making this? Sometimes I've heard you say in the past, like the second job. I think it's really sad when people make it the main thing that's the most amazing about them. What advice do you have for those people?
We actually have a maintenance course because I just kept seeing so many of my people lose weight and then they didn't know what to do with themselves. We always think we're going to feel amazing when we lose our weight. And I'm not saying that we all don't have like amazing moments, but our brain tricks us into this like idealistic fantasy land. Like when we picture losing weight, all of a sudden it's like the sun shines every day. It's always 75 degrees. We're floating around in the perfect body and eating a stalk of celery going, oh, this is perfect. It's like, it's the most insane thing. And when they hit maintenance, the only time, like I will just be honest, even when after I lost my weight, there was a lot of moments where I was proud, but I was only proud in moments when I caught my reflection. When I would get dressed, if I flew on the airplane and could cross my legs, there were like these hits, but life was still happening. And it's like we forget that we're going to be at goal weight and we're still going to have a dick boss. We're still going to get cut off in traffic. Our kid is still going to say, I you because you didn't give me this. And if you are married like I am, you're still going to have days where you want to do something and your husband don't, and you're going to be mad. We forget that weight loss doesn't solve life. It
Yeah.
just feels good in certain situations. Most of us are going to have more positive thoughts about ourselves,
Yeah.
but not all the thoughts will be positive. I think when we paint the picture realistically, then we don't get to the end and then are like shocked. Because I think that's part of the problem is we get to the end of it and we're shocked, number one, that like, why isn't everything perfect? Well, if you thought it was all going to be solved, then yeah, you would be rocked. You would be shocked. You would be very confused. So I always
Yeah.
like just first to say to people when it comes to maintenance is we want to set the stage as we're losing weight that we're never going to feel perfect all the time.
Yeah.
You're just going to be thinner in a real world. That's really all that's going to happen. The other thing is when you're losing weight, most of us don't go through identity change. So we're just losing weight to be losing weight. And we're not doing the things like a big thing for my people is they just are terrible talkers to themselves.
Yeah.
Everything's not good enough. It's, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. We put ourselves in a lot of no win situations. We're constantly people pleasing. We're always worried what other people are thinking of us. We criticize ourselves. I'm no better. I have a brain just like everybody else, where if I do something, even if it's good, I don't just like sit back and like, oh, look at me. I'm so smart. Let me take a moment to revel in my wonderfulness. I'm like, what's the next thing on my list?
Right.
Thank God that's done. It's just, we don't know how to do anything other than just keep pushing, keep going, and collapsing at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
most of us, the way we keep going, it's not very nice. We have a
Yeah.
lot of things that we say that are like, if you don't get this done, so and so is going to be disappointed. If you don't do this, they're going to be hurt. If you don't do this with your child, you're a bad mom. You should feel bad about not calling your own mother. Our brains are very much trained to motivate us with negativity. Now, part of that is culturally for women, but a bigger part of that is just the way the brain is designed. I always like to tell people you have about 60,000 thoughts a day, and 70% of them are supposed to be negative. So it's not like we're broken. But what we can do is we can have more awareness around how we're talking to ourselves and take our temperature down when we notice we're jacking ourselves up.
Yeah.
So when you are losing weight, if you become someone who can notice when she's catastrophizing, what ifing to death, worrying, imagining the worst case scenarios, thinking everybody must be thinking this and you just feel like it's true, if we can change all of that, then when you move into maintenance, you have the skill. When you're losing weight and you're not taught all that, when you hit maintenance, like I said, anything that doesn't get fixed emotionally and psychologically on the way down the scale is just waiting for you. And it's just like, I can't wait to get my hands on you because the second you don't have this diet going on, I can now pounce. So
Yeah.
that's why it's so important to not just lose physical weight. Just like the people that are doing all the shots and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I have a big group of people who are doing them and I support them. I think that this could be probably one of the most groundbreaking things that for women that could have ever happened. For
Totally.
God's sakes, give us something that makes things a little bit easier on us, but it doesn't fix our emotional problems.
Totally.
The best it can do is not let us fill the emotional void with food anymore. And that's where some people are getting stuck. In my world, what ends up happening is they will be on the shots and then they're miserable while they're on them because it's like, I was eating through so much of this stuff and now
Yeah.
I can't ignore it. And so some people will just override and eat anyway. Some people
Yeah.
will turn to drinking. Some people turn to shopping. Some people just get off on them. They're like, I got to get off this because they feel like it's this constant hum of my life is like, my life's not going well. My life's not going well. My life's not going well. And it's like your brain is smart enough to say, we got to go back to the eating. And if this thing's not going to let us eat, we should get off this thing.
Yeah. It's kind of like with the metabolic health that these medications are creating. It's the same thing that happens with bariatric surgery, where people will talk about this, where when they get the surgery, like they'll be crying a lot afterward because they just
Yeah.
they literally physically cannot engage with food in the same way. And unless you had significant help prior, I mean, actually, there's no amount of help prior that can prepare you for actually going through the experience after because it's just so different compared to what you're told or the tools you're given. I completely see this a lot with people where they're sad that the food is not the hit anymore, right? That like they can't
Right.
get that relief. And so everything that you're saying, that there are these other tools we're gonna have to build out. You're gonna have to notice, I feel like the thought traps, right? Like these things that all these negative ways that we're talking to ourselves. So all of this, we're gonna have to kind of learn some ways to talk differently, learn to spot it, learn to sort of engage differently. And I mean, this kind of brings up, is there something where like all day long you're like, just stop doing this? Do you want to ever like, or I like to kind of hear like the top thing that you think if you could like shout this to someone that you think their life would be better in this area, what do you think it would be?
I think it's stop judging yourself for everything. I really feel like the biggest thing that stands in the way of like when a woman, even when I teach them, this is what's happening, blah, 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 they always think, I must be crazy because I'm thinking this, or I shouldn't be thinking this, or everything I do is wrong. I just always want to tell women, like, if you are emotionally eating, there's always a rock solid, really good reason why it's happening. It's not a defect. It's not a broken thing in you. It's not anything other than something internally is signaling, I need help.
Yeah.
I just need help. And when we think we're wrong, when we think we're bad, when we're upset that we binged again, whatever it is, you can't listen to the part of you that's saying, I need help. I just need you to listen.
Yeah.
Because if you're judging, it never feels good. And when we judge, we just want to get away from that. So it either kicks off a spiral of a lot of emotional eating, or you never get to the root, or you go in the opposite direction, which is you kickstart another crazy batshit diet
Right. You
to try
clamp
to
down.
solve that. Right. You're trying to solve this naughty part of you. All the while, there's like, I always tell women, the most powerful thing that ever happened for me was starting to imagine the part of me that wants to eat is like the 12-year-old version of me. And I keep a picture of her on my office desk. And she is and literally, I'm celebrating my 12th birthday. I'm bullied. Like, that was one of the worst years growing up. I was probably 210 pounds in the 6th grade and bullied every freaking day. I came home crying every day because I had a few kids in the class who just wouldn't let up. And it was my 12th birthday. I'm sitting in front of a birthday cake. My clothes barely fit. I look like I'm trying to be happy, but you can just see her little face. She's not happy. And I keep her on my desk.
Yeah.
Because anytime I want to emotionally eat, I always imagine she's begging for some help. There's probably something going on in my adult life that the 12-year-old who ate every afternoon until she went to bed after school because she felt like no one listened and no one loved her. There's probably something going on in her adult life where she's feeling that pressure again, that she's never going to be good enough. No one's going to like her. She's screwing up. She shouldn't be this way. You know, just think about all the messages we internalize. And so I always like to imagine that's her asking for help. And when I think of her, I would never look at her and just be like, you stupid bitch, why'd you eat that? Like, I just wouldn't do it. So sometimes for like, when you ask the question, like if I could stop everybody from doing one thing, I think so many women would probably lose an immediate 20 to 30% of their weight if they could cut themselves some slack.
Yeah.
Like right there. There's so much of what we do when we overeat is in reaction to our own thoughts and feelings about ourselves and
Yeah.
how we're internalizing the world. So if they could just do that, I mean, that, if nothing else, if even if you didn't lose weight, you'd feel a shit ton better. And most of us want to lose weight to do what? Be happy, feel a shit ton better. And it's, so I always like to tell people, I think weight loss is the byproduct of all the things you do for yourself to feel better.
Yeah.
But most of us have it backward. We lose weight and we think that feeling better is the byproduct. And I think they work in the opposite direction. That's
Yeah.
why I'm so up on emotional eating. We fix the root cause. It is easier to lose weight. There's still hard parts. Like you still have to adjust to new habits. You still have to, do all that stuff. But it's so much easier when you're not being hard on yourself.
100%. Because I think to your point, it's like life always has challenges. There's no time coming when I'm obsessed with this book, Life is in the Transitions. And basically, this guy, I don't know if you've read the book, but he went and interviewed all these different people. And basically, what the book highlights is look, you assume life is like, I don't know, getting married, having a kid, whatever. Okay, whatever you imagined when you were growing up. But really, people live life in different ways. And basically, every 18 months, something massive happens in life. Like I'm talking a divorce, a birth, a death, right? Like an earthquake, like there's things, but then there's all these other things all the other time. So he kind of quantified it, like he did some research on it. And here's the thing I left with. He was basically like, look, if you don't know how to pivot, if you don't know how to talk to yourself and how to get through challenges, you're not making it. Like this is not happening when there's the perfect time to do this work. And to your point, I totally agree. If you feel better to begin with, I think you show up a lot more to help yourself to do all these things because it is a lot that's required often that we're changing. And yes, we can do it slowly and we can kind of like sugarcoat it however we want. But at the end of the day, usually people are a radically different person at the end as far as what they're eating, what they're drinking, how they're, what they're doing. And so to your point, if people would start, I really love that, if they would start with not judging themselves as much. I love that you say there's very good reason for it. There's not a defect with you, 100%. And also the goal is never zero. At least that's always been my platform. I'm like, we're not trying to get to, we're not like bodybuilders where it's like no time ever unless it's for nutrition. Okay, good. Go somewhere else for that. But most people, like you said, there's some religious importance here and there, some birthday, there's something where you want to have that as a purpose, but then the rest of the time we want you to actually be feeling your life and liking who you are and living in integrity, everything like that. This is just truly amazing what you've shared. Do you think there's anything else that people really need to hear on this topic that we haven't covered?
No, I mean, I think we've covered it pretty deep. I mean, if we just summed it up, it's like, think before you eat. Because if you think before you eat, it's not just about should I eat this or not? It's why do I want to eat this? And like your reasons, like really like them, not just your quick reactionary. But if you're thinking about, like, for example, tonight, my husband was asking, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? Because we do a lot of food prep once a week. And then we always have like an audible night. And tonight's our audible night. And I was like, chicken liver night. And he was like, all right. Because if anybody knows me, oh my God, like I love fried chicken livers, mashed potatoes with fried okra. Like, to me, that is one of, like, if I go to heaven, there better be a buffet full of it. I will not be in heaven if that's not there. So I was telling him, I was like, we should do the chicken livers tonight because we haven't done it in over a week. Mom's been in town. Like we never have company. My mom's been in town for almost 10 days. We've just had a lot going on. And I said, you know what? Tonight's going to be the first night that everything's going to be quiet. We can just sit back. We can enjoy ourselves. I was like, we should order it's our little meat and three down the street. I was like, we should order Wabash tonight. I was like, because we can eat, we can watch Ted Lasso, we can relax. To me, it was like when I was thinking before I ate, I was like, tonight is a night where I really want to just have fun.
Yeah.
Because we have been doing and doing and doing. And I like that. When I think about it, it's like, I don't care that I eat chicken livers every now and then. I would care if I was eating chicken livers 2 to 3 times a week because I'd had a bad day.
Totally.
But when I sit and think, let's make this special. We're getting back into the routine of it's just being you and me at home and everything like that. It feels like we're going to savor and we're going to have a kickoff party and stuff. To me, that's the kind of emotional eating we want to embrace in our life. If we're in the habit of really thinking through our choices, loving them, understanding them, and trusting that we have just as many nights, there's just as many nights where we are like, all we want to do is eat something really healthy because on par, if I had a big workout tomorrow, I wouldn't be ordering chicken livers tonight.
Yeah, won't feel good, right? Like,
no, I'd be eating my normal crap, but like, and not that I eat crab. I know I say, but that's just my Southern way. But right now, one of my normal craps is I have my sister-in-law. She's a great cook. I found this chicken noodle soup recipe on Pinterest. And I don't know why. I never liked chicken noodle soup ever in my life. About a month ago, I had some because didn't feel good. Yeah. And so we were at a hotel and literally the only thing I could think of that I could keep down was chicken noodle soup.
Oh.
Since then, I've been obsessed. Obsessed. So I found a recipe because I'm a crap cook. And I was asked my sister-in-law, I was like, hey, would you make a big pot of this? And that's been my lunch for 2 weeks. And I love it every day. But
Oh, I love
nice
it.
and healthy. And I know, like when I think before I eat, I really trust that I will always be making decisions through the lens of, will me today and me tomorrow like it?
Yeah.
So, like, I like to make a promise to my future self. I am always trying to take care of you. And if she's not going to wake up with regrets, we're good. Now, if I was eating chicken livers every 3 or 4 days and getting heartburn and crap like that, my future self would be like, bitch, what is up? What's going on? Because I'm paying the price every morning.
Yeah, I remember I learned that from you, right? Like, hey, is the tomorrow me okay with this? And I'll never forget, this was years ago. We were at the lake and we'd brought donuts for the kids, but I had brought some food that would feel better for me. And I remember I went out to the car to get the donuts for the kids, and my instinct was like, just put your hand in and go grab it. And I was like, pause, right? This is what you're talking about. This, stop for a second. And I remember just being like, what if tomorrow morning you woke up and you'd have the food you brought and you didn't have that donut? Not because you can't have the donut, but because you actually legit brought food that you actually really love and it tastes good, but you're going to feel higher energy, da da da. And I didn't have it. It was like just this light bulb moment, right? It just takes like one time of thinking about it differently. So I love that. What do they say? Like 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 weeks, 5 days, right? Like you just kind of like bring it out and you're like, am I still happy with this moment? Yes, you're going to love tonight, this time with your husband, all that. And I feel like this is the truest definition when we say, don't deprive yourself of balance. Like no one knows what the hell that means, but this is what it means, where it's like, yes, you are at times going to have these things that you like. It's not about good food, bad food, like none of that bullshit, but it's about like, how do I actually balance this in a way that makes sense where I'm still on my goals and all of it. And so I think that example just beautifully says all of it. I've just learned so much today. Can you tell people, how can they find you? Tell us about your program, because I think that your program is such a compliment to, frankly, everyone's metabolic health journey. Like they need this. They're not getting it from their physician. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so they can go to just nobsweightloss.com. The first thing I always tell people is take my free course first. Like I have got an amazing little 3-part series. It will teach you the basics of how I lost 100 pounds. It is not just the tactics, it's like the simple little tactics I did, but I layer in the emotional changes I made too. So start there. I also have a podcast. It's called Losing 100 Pounds with Corinne. It's a weekly podcast too. I talk a lot about the mindset stuff, and there's 400 episodes, so you're not gonna run out of stuff to listen to. And you can find a variety of things, from some tactical, but a lot of the just mindset stuff we've been talking today. I try to always trace everything back to tactics don't work unless the mind is working alongside of it. You cannot just keep throwing diets at things. It's not solving the reasons why we're eating. And that's the main things. Now, if you end up working with me, I have a membership. You just join it. And in there, you go through my entire weight loss course. But I think the most important thing for women is support.
Yeah.
We just don't get enough of it these days. You need somebody you can talk to. We have coaches that are trained just like Matea has been trained. We have a community that is like no other. And I always tell people, our community these days online gets a bad rap because the world is a shit show,
Oh,
but not in my group. I rule with an
because
iron
I was like,
fist.
you're
It's like, yes, I'm just like, you can't have a bad day in here. You got to come in here and you got to be nice. Like we doing weight loss. We not doing drama. Watch Young and the Restless if you want drama. So, but women are so used to trying to do everything all by themselves. Like it always breaks my heart when a woman says, I should be able to do this on my own.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, women shouldn't be able to lose weight on their own. Not when no one has been taking care of them. Not when they don't know how to fulfill their emotional needs yet. Not when anybody's really taught them how their brain is working and stuff. You don't know this stuff. Like you shouldn't be able to do this on your own. You deserve help. That's what you deserve. And so I think that's the most important part of it, is just being able to reach out and get help in live time, because that's the biggest problem we have when we're trying to lose weight is It's not a shortage of exercise and meal plans. There's like you can go, I always tell people, if all you want's a meal plan, go to Pinterest. Hundreds of them will pop up at any moment and you can download and print. You do not need to pay anyone for that these days.
No.
But what's missing is when you're having a bad night, when you're having a bad day, when you feel overwhelmed, when your brain is swirling with 1,000 food rules that you've collected from the million diets you've done, and you feel like throwing your hands up and just giving up, it's those moments you need help.
Yeah.
And that is where diets do not help us.
Yeah.
We need support, ladies. So we just are big believers in, we are your panic button. We are your emergency button. We are your best friend. We are your, instead of having a glass of wine, have a talk with us. Like we will help. So
no, I completely agree. And most people, if we're being real here, if you look at successful people, they're having so much help, it's unreal. So I don't know where we have ever thought this, doing it myself. That is just, that's the opposite of reality. But no, I mean, like most successful people are not really talking about it, right? But they have like whole teams, they have multiple coaches for multiple things. And so I love that you bring this up. So we're going to make sure to link all of this in the show notes. People, you can look under where you're listening, or you can go to Rentea Clinic, RENTEA clinic.com. And we're going to make sure right here with this episode that we have all the links. Thank you so much again, Corinne. There was just so many amazing gems today that you shared.
Thank you for having me again.
That marks the end of today's episode. But if you're newer to the podcast, I want to tell you about something that we have, and it's a free podcast roadmap. So this is perfect for any of you that are listening where you want to be directed to very specific episodes. So let's say that you are just starting out and you want to know, what should I do right when I start on the medications? Or you're experiencing certain side effects on the GLP-1s, or you want to know what to do if you're in a plateau, or if emotional eating is taking over, or if hunger levels are high. So we have many different categories of episodes that we've talked about, because there's a lot at this point. So if you want to be able to navigate that very easily, we have it broken down by category, and also the episodes that are there, and we hyperlink to everything. So you can just click on it and find the episode, easy peasy. If you want that, you can go to renteaclinic.com/podcast roadmap. We'll have it linked right here underneath the show notes where you're listening. And you can go ahead and get that free resource so that it makes it easy for you to navigate, because I know that it's really hard when someone has an established podcast. I am such a podcast fiend, listening to podcasts all day long. And when I find one that I love, but there's a lot that are out there, I am so lost. So I hope that you enjoy this free podcast roadmap. Again, the link to get to that is going to be renteaclinic.com/podcast roadmap. I hope this is helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.